you're going to have AI universities that are literally just AI building the content, and that's going to be okay. But you are going to have universities fail because they can't keep up.
In today's episode of the Chris Tech Chat, we have Joseph Lapin, who has over 12 years of experience in higher ed marketing, driving enrollment growth, and helping prestigious universities stand out in a competitive market and landscape. Known for leveraging storytelling to enhance the student journey and optimize LTV/SAC ratios, he's led marketing strategies for Michigan State University, Villanova University, and Emory University as head of marketing at Bisk. Previously, as a partner at Circa Interactive, Joe collaborated with universities on marketing and brand strategy, including American University and Tulane University, and supported major OPMs with story-driven strategies. Following Circa's Interactive acquisition by Archer Education, he served on their executive team. He's also a former journalist and a writer featuring the LA Times, LA Weekly, Slate, and Fast Company. Joe combines his expertise in storytelling and communication with a deep passion for the transformative power of education. Currently, he is the founder of Campbell Learn, which is a digital marketing agency and consulting firm that transforms the student journey from personalized, story-driven strategies to increase enrollments, boost engagement, and reduce melt. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about universities deciding on how to build capabilities internally. Joe, welcome to the Chris Tech Chat. And as always, Julio is our guest with us today. We'll be interacting and asking questions to Joe as well. So once again, Joe, welcome to the Chris Tech Chat.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the other episodes available on all major platforms. So, that's a loaded, question. In today's world of institutions that are still struggling to survive, figuring out what relevant programs are in the marketplace, figuring out what capabilities internally marketing can do for them, how can they do better recruitment and retention tend to be key performance indicators at any institutions, whether they're in the public side, private for profit, private nonprofit, you name it on it. But what are your thoughts on building those capabilities internally? And if you want to zone in on more on the marketing side or in the recruitment side or the retention side, what are your thoughts today as we start on Q2 of 2025? And obviously you've got many years of experience in higher ed. What are your thoughts on sort of the state of the union for institutions, at least in the United States?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. And I think it starts with a little bit of historical grounding, right? And, universities, especially online, when they wanted to go online, they obviously partnered with OPMs, and OPMs like 2U, Pearson, obviously RisePoint, formerly Academic Partnership. And a lot of these OPMs, they provided an important service, which was, we're going to provide you all of the infrastructure you need. We're going to provide you the technology. We're going to provide you the sales team. We're going to provide you the advertising dollars. We're going to provide you the CRM. We're going to provide you the finance. We're going to do everything for you. That was an amazing sales pitch. It allowed a lot of universities to go online faster than they possibly could. And it allowed them to not have to dip into their limited resources financially. Now, of course, what happened is that these universities were giving up sometimes 70% of their tuition. And so this question of how do I build these capabilities inside of my university is naturally happening over the last couple of years. And I would say that it's almost reaching a fever pitch. We see this many times with clients through many of the different projects that I work with. Whether it's Rhodes Advisors or some of the other work that I do, we're constantly seeing these questions of, can I do this on my own? And so I'm a storyteller, and these universities are basically at that precipice of this call to action of going into the unknown. Now, some of these universities, they go into this story, this journey with very clear knowledge because they had deep transparency with their OPM on how to do it, but OPMs didn't want to initially give that transparency because, well, why would they? This is how they thought. Like, this is my profit, this is my revenue. Why would I tell you my secret sauce? so that you can go out there and do it on your own. And so
You think they're
as
losing credibility, OPMs, today in the marketplace? Have they lost credibility from an institution perspective on it? Do you think the dynamics have changed already, even from the last 10 years to now?
Yeah, I think it's really a case by case, but I would say, yes, there is a lot of skepticism from universities with OPMs. Now, I often don't think that that's sometimes warranted. I don't think that the OPM model is evil. I don't think it's there to take advantage of universities. I think there's definitely bad situations and bad actors and bad moments and bad relationships. But I think it's really a case by case basis is evaluating, is this OPM relationship good for me? It's basically, asking, is my marriage or is my dating, is it healthy? Is it the best for me? And so I think there's definitely a crisis. And it's forcing these universities to say, I build this on my own. So that I think is the inflection point we're at. That's like, can you go into the knowledge to do that? Or do you not understand how to do that? And you could make a terrible mistake by going out and building it on your own and continuing to grow your revenue. I can go into many different areas that people need to be thinking about. I think that's the stage I wanted to set.
So in summary, would it be safe to assume that institutions need to take a deep look inside and honestly look at themselves and say, do we have the ability to build this internally here effectively, sustainable, or should I partner with someone from the outside that can help me build pieces of it in a sustainable manner, in a way that is equitable, that we can build a good product for our students and attract students and things like that? Is that sort of a fair statement?
Yeah, it's 100% a fair statement. And I would say that it's definitely looking inside, and I can go into what you need to look at when you look at yourself in the mirror there. And that's a hard thing to do, because I think that we all believe that we can do it on our own. And, it's a hard, but I would also say you have to look externally. What do these OPMs know? Like, why are they so successful? Now, the OPM model in certain cases is not actually sustainable. The acquisition costs have gone up tremendously. There are a lot of OPMs, in my mind, from my vantage point, that are struggling mightily, and their very business model is becoming challenged. And can they survive? I think that's not only are universities asking that, but some OPMs are as well. And so I think for universities, it's important to look externally. What are those factors that the OPMs are facing that are making their very business model challenging? How do I avoid those? But also, I think universities, yes, they have to look intrinsically, but they have to look at market research. They have to look at search demand for programs, because so often we go into this with just sort of a gut feeling. Oh, you know what? I actually think an online MBA should be a no-brainer for us. Hold on. Where are you regionally? It's so competitive. Like, you got to ask the tough questions. What is the market research? Or I want to, start an online master's in, something a little bit more niche that has no volume, that you have to build that volume. So there's a lot of external questions that I think are important, but it starts with looking at the market. And this is probably obvious. Like, market research is important to some people, but yeah, looking at what makes an OPM historically successful and what about that model isn't working today. So that to me is the external piece. I'm happy to go into the internal piece now. When you look at yourself in the mirror, what you need to ask. But Chris, where would you like to go?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point as well. Would also be a safe assumption to assume that institutions are looking for this sort of quick win, sort of speed to market, no major upfront investment from my CapEx perspective. Hey, we need to access this expertise, sort of the key driver for sometimes looking on the outside. But like you said, you got to be careful, right? What you ask for it. And also, if you don't think that that's a viable option and you think you can build it in-house, to make sure that you really have the capabilities to do it and you have the expertise. And then ultimately, that these are data-driven decisions, right? Based on market data, not just out of the seat of the pants, somebody or a dean saying, hey, I think this program will be super cool in the marketplace. Let's just go ahead and build it, and then they will come. That doesn't happen in higher ed, right?
Yeah. Chris, there's so many layers to that conversation. It's a really good question. Yeah, I would say that first and foremost, if you're a university and you want to create growth, especially in the online space, and maybe you're leaving your OPM, maybe you're evaluating whether you need an OPM to scale. If you're in the belief that you're not going to need significant investment to launch online programs to go in a market, you're in big trouble, in my mind. Like maybe there's like you could even have internal capabilities, but from an advertising dollar perspective, from the course development, from the faculty, from like your CRM, your marketing automation, everything you need to do to compete. Now, how big do you need to be thinking about that is definitely different. But if you're not going into this wide-eyed with a clear financial model and like really mapping out not just what do I need from an expense perspective, but what are my actual realistic revenue potential? That's what OPMs have done so well for so long, is that they were able to go in with years of data, years of understanding how digital marketing works, years of understanding what it means to launch a program, and they could benefit from economies of scale because they're using a Salesforce, they're using a marketing automation across multiple different programs, and they're creating that economy of scale. So yeah, I mean, that to me is where I think universities, to understand capabilities, really have to understand the financial implications of launching this on their own, first and foremost, because there are so many smart financial folks at universities, but launching an online program and thinking about marketing and enrollment is, in my mind, a very different beast if you're not used to that. And so, yeah, I mean, that'd be the first place I'd look.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Joe, if you had an institution that is right now has a blank sheet of paper and they're struggling with recruitment, enrollment, retention, all the typical KPIs that any institution faces on a daily, quarterly, yearly basis on it, what would be the basic things that you would need for you to identify in order for institutions to say, yep, you know what, we need to really outsource this, we need to go to an OPM? What are the key criteria that if you identify and do a 360 across institutions, what are the key factors in place that would determine, yes, we need to go outside because of ABC, whether it's a poor IT technology team, not a strong lead on the marketing side? If you had to summarize, for a potential institution or client of yours, or anybody out there that is watching our podcast, what are the key things that if you identify those within an institution, then you're a good candidate to really go outside and seek that professional executive consultation and team to help you build that?
Yeah, great question. And it is, again, a layered conversation. I'm going to give you some answers to that, not in order. They're not like, I wouldn't say go 1, 2, 3.
Just top 5, 6, 7, whatever number you think it is. 40,000 foot view.
First one that comes to my mind is, how much do you have in advertising dollars? First and foremost, like, what kind of capabilities do you have to take advertising dollars and put them into market? First and foremost, I think that's where my mind goes, because here's the dirty secret, I think, when universities are evaluating OPMs. And I've heard some folks say this when I was working at not at an OPM, but in the history of working adjacent to OPMs. I just want you to take that Brinks truck and back up the cash. Give me that cash. I need the advertising dollars. Like, I think that in a lot of ways, sometimes the universities, sometimes rightfully so, are just looking at an OPM as a bank because they have the capital to invest advertising dollars, and often they don't. So if they don't have a lever to get that advertising dollars, I mean, okay, you got to really evaluate where that's going to come from. And an OPM might be beneficial in that situation, or you bring in an agency or an advisor, someone like maybe Rhodes Advisors, to say, hey, how do we develop a financial model to request advertising dollars, that actually will prove, that has some sort of data to back return on investment. The second thing is like, okay, what's your student journey look like today? Like, you have programs, how are you recruiting them? Well, you don't know what a student journey is? Great. That's understandable. You're an academic, you're focused in this world. This is where we come in. But if you don't have a student journey mapped from lead to enrollment and what that pipeline looks like, and data to understand, if I generate this many leads, I'm going to close this many enrollments. So if you don't have a student journey that I can go in and audit and say, here's where you need to make improvements, here's how you update the phone calls, here's how you update the emails and the text message to ultimately move to enrollment, you're in trouble. 3, CRM. So what kind of CRM are you using? Are you a school and you don't have a CRM and you need a CRM? Are you a school and on a larger university CRM and have limitations? Do you not know what a CRM is? And you need some information. I think that there's levels of experience, and I'm not, diminishing any of those ideas. I think they're all really great areas where people can get help and involvement. But that CRM piece, I can't tell you how often and how much I see that a university doesn't think about the cost of a CRM, the implementations of the CRM, the management of the CRM. And often they'll use something way bigger than they need, like a Salesforce. And it's not able to be accessed. You can't have people that are doing the work access it. You need specialized skills. And the fourth thing that I would say, I could go on probably and on, but your skill set internally. One thing that I think universities do exceptionally well is communications. They are, we're on the marketing side, there's so many communication folks that understand how to handle crisis communication and PR, and they do an amazing job at that. What I often see is that was the skill they hired for. But that skill set is not enrollment marketing. That is not performance marketing. You have to evaluate your organizational chart. What does your org chart look like? Are you using central marketing? Are you using school-based marketing? What does your sales team look like? Because how can you handle 1,000 leads a month to hit a enrollment goal if you don't have the sales team to even work those leads, or the CRM to manage them, or the marketing automation to communicate to them? So there's so many factors. And then, honestly, faculty sometimes, is there actually buy-in that faculty want to do this growth? So there's so many things that people have to be thinking about that are involved in this. There's so many layers. Oh, and then the SIS, and there's so many things that go into this.
Great. So in summary, I think you made a point about 4 different areas, and if I summarize it properly, one is certainly the financial piece of it, the investment in advertisement, right? You don't have the dollars, you're going to look for somebody else is going to invest the money there, you're going to look for the ROI. How can they effectively invest, their advertising dollars? 2 is, do you have a true student journey mapped out from lead to enrollment, that it clearly shows a path, and if there are opportunities, someone needs to step in there, make improvements, and make sure you have the ability to make those, make sure that there's no roadblocks. Number 3, I think you mentioned a CRM. And a CRM is not just a collection of data that is being forced, right? Doesn't need for the staff to be constantly reminding people, don't forget to enter information about the lead or the student or the conversation you had. That needs to be part of the culture, right? It needs to be embraced, it needs to be used, it needs to be smooth, it needs to be built with the right funnels in place, all the stuff. And then you need to look at the organization internally and make sure that you have the right people that are on board, right? And that's something I think probably you would agree almost as important as every other factor is how much resistance will be, because somehow this model is in a certain way intrusive, right? You're going to step your foot door into a little bit of the marketing. You're going to knock on the door of your CIO and say, hey, I need access to your CRM. You're going to talk to the academics piece and folks in place in there, enrollment services. You're going to touch various different departments of the institution. So I think having them believe in what you're trying to do and having the organization ready for it is also a key factor, right?
Yeah, and I'll say 2 things to that. One, one of the things that I loved about Archer Education when I worked there, and I learned so much from them. They're some of the best people I've ever worked with in my life. I'm still in contact with them. Brad Gibbs and John Goodwin would do this exercise, which was called the readiness assessment. And I don't know if they're listening, but if I'm butchering the name, I apologize. But it was a good, better, and best model. I think that was what they said. And they would do this readiness assessment and be like, hey, are you actually capable of having buy-in? What does it look like? Are you ready? Even before they would sign the contract, I think. And I just thought I don't think I understood it at the time. I was a little bit more focused on the creative and the marketing strategy. But I just think that that's a really important process. Are you ready, university? And sometimes they're not.
So institutional readiness, right? Are they ready to embark on this? Do we understand what this means, what it entitles to, the commitment that they need to make in place, and I think to a certain degree, the level of partnership, right? Which I think it starts from the top, from a president all the way down. If this is something that is just being driven by the provost or the VP of recruitment and enrollment on it, if this is, and I want to hear your thoughts, at least in my humble experience, if this is not something driven from the top, from the president of the institution saying, we need to do this, and let me show you why, a lot of these engagements tend to fail, right?
Yeah, I think without the president involved, it certainly could fail 100%. I do think though that a lot of this is driven by, people that roll up to the president sometimes. So yeah, I would agree with you. And just Chris, I wanted to come back to one thing too. When you asked, "Are you ready?" One thing I think is really ready for buy-in, and this I think goes to the vision of the dean and the provost, as well. Your academic portfolio, is that ready for showtime? Is that really a marketable offering? And are you willing, as a university, to bring products to market that are workable and have the skill? And then, there's companies like Ziplines Education, right, that come in and say, hey, we know you're not ready to offer new programs that are aligned with the market. Here's 6 of them, use them, let us kind of, and I'm bringing up Ziplines because, I think they're a great organization. My brother-in-law works there, but there's other companies like that are doing similar models. So there's so many approaches now to look at growth. Are you ready for growth? And if you can navigate them and understand that playing field, it's really helpful. And I think often a president, in my mind, would set the vision, and it's up to some of those other folks to lay the roadmap. And I think it's why so many drive those things. Deans and provosts and heads of online learning, innovation folks. So there's a lot that I think rolls up to that president that are involved.
That's why I think you hit the nail on the head by making sure that there's a readiness assessment performed early on to truly understand if the institution is ready to move forward. And if it's not, then great, let's wait until the right time. Or if the specific program is not ready, utilize somebody else's program that is ready encapsulated, ready to go to the market, that has been proven sustainable, has all the courses, all the material in place to be effective, and has been proven to be a success, right, in this model. Switching a little bit.
One more thing I just want to add real quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of folks will have the portfolio sometimes, but what they forget to answer is, why does this matter? Why is this unique? Who cares? If you can't answer those questions and create a compelling reason, in my mind, that's where storytelling comes in. But if you can't do those things, you're just another product sitting on a shelf. And,
if you cannot articulate why.
Yeah. Why does this matter? How do you connect me emotionally? Don't just connect me logically. No one's saying that, right? But if you're not thinking about both ways of thinking, system 1, system 2, you're in trouble.
Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So you touched on being the technologist in the room, right? You talked about, the SIS and the CRM and all that. Obviously, technology is a big part of putting this all together into a system.
Yes, I would 100% agree.
Now, adding to that, right? How is in your field, in your industry, and what you're doing now? How are you leveraging AI to help tell the story and make a difference to the university?
Yeah, and to me, this is a big area that's next. Is like when you're thinking about capacity building. I mean, I've talked to some folks, and I think the universities are not. Okay, I don't have a big enough sample size of these conversations just starting. I don't think they have a vision for AI and how it can literally build those capabilities. Let me give you just one quick example.
Yeah.
Marketing team is busy. Leads are coming in. Sales team says, and this could be internally, this could be an OPM, whatever. Hey, marketing, I don't have enough material to send to these students. Yeah, I don't have enough real-time info. Hey, I got other things to do, bud. Like, I can't help you with that. Well, if the sales team had a custom GPT built by the marketing team that would allow them to fill in content needs at key points that's still based in some branding work, well, then boom. And then the next thing is AI workflows. It's like really thinking about building AI agents and workflows to streamline processes, using things like make.com. There's a lot of things and I think this is a big part of what I would love to help universities with. probably with someone like, Lee Bradshaw, is just really about, okay, how do we help you not just build capacity, but leverage AI workflows into your processes to scale? And so I think it's a great question. If it's just, that's another way to modernize your
Right.
capabilities.
Yeah. Okay.
Where do you think the market is heading into? I mean, we're in 2025 now. I think Julio just brought in AI. AI just came in. It's been out there for a while, but the last 6 to 12 months has been much more notorious with number engines coming up, sort of the East versus the West, in terms of capabilities for machine language, large language models in place, AI agents, and helping institutions scale. I think your point is leveraging AI to scale to be able to achieve the objectives, because we know everybody's busy. Marketing is busy, sales is busy, IT is always busy on the technology side, and so the other department, including the academic side of it. But where do you think the market is heading? And when I mean the market, I mean institutions in the next, the 2 to 3 to 4 years when it comes to building capabilities. And this is a sort of a loaded question, but I want to get your thoughts on, what's your vision? What are your thoughts on where all this is heading into? And what are some of the things that they need to be aware of?
Short term, universities are going to fail. They're going to go out of business.
Yeah.
You're going to have AI universities that are literally just AI building the content, and that's going to be okay. But you are going to have universities fail because they can't keep up. And there's so much more course offerings that are cheaper now from, companies like Google that are completely disrupting the market. And so if these universities just can't keep up with the speed of innovation and content, honestly, like, there's so many companies that can move faster in terms of content. There'll be a lot of closings. So short term. Now, long term, I think AI is going to breed an amazing, magical new university, because I really do believe in spatial computing. I really do believe in VR. And I do believe that online universities, they're going to be leveraging that model and that thinking and innovating in those ways. And so what I think is going to happen long term, as some of these universities fail and some of these OPMs fail, there will be OPMs that fail. You will have a disintegration between on ground and online. And you'll be entering this third space of learning that is virtual, but it is real. It is social, it is communal. And for me, AI is going to be help building that ecosystem of content. Like, I just think we're going to let loose, and those worlds will be building themselves, and they'll be intersecting and joining. And there's a great company named Topia who I do some podcasts with the CEO over there, Daniel, and they're already doing some of this stuff in terms of digital experiences. You have Victory XR mapping universities, but I just think that if you can think about something like Minecraft, you're building that world. It's just a matter of time before we start stepping into the metaverse as a higher education system and as a culture and as a community. And it's just going to be crazy.
Yeah, to your point, I've seen in some classes, some institutions, some programs were doing classes via VR.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, and I think, though, it's limited, though. I mean, it's great to see people using VR, especially in like the surgical space. Where I think that the unlocking will happen is the social component.
Right.
Because I went to my graduate school, I mean, I was a nerd. I would literally sit in front of my teacher's office hours. He's like waiting for them to be in. They're late, like I'd be waiting there. I didn't care. If I saw them, I was going in there. I hang out with students. Like, even in online education, like unlocking that social component, that integration into your work. I mean, just even think about spatial computing. I'm cooking for my family, but I'm also using, these headphones that are integrating my work. Oh, here's the screen right here. Okay, here I'm cutting carrots. Like, you see this in the Apple ads, so that integration of life and education in virtual world, it's gotta be special. People probably think I'm crazy, but
No,
It's
no,
going to
and
be real
I think
special.
especially it's going to get fueled by the new generations, Gen Zs and all those. Those are the consumers that are fueling that type of experience. I think that's gonna, and those are just the Gen Zs. The ones that are being born now that are going to be that are 2, 3, 4 years old are going to even fuel even further that immerse experience in the future. And I think you're right on the money, Joe. That institutions that don't adopt that don't really digital transform the institution with programs and interactive programs and experience and amazing student journeys and student experiences in place are going to disappear. And that's just a matter of fact. A lot of the institutions started doing that already, and those that are being pioneering, that we know the names, right? Especially in the online world, those I think are going to continue to excel. The ones that have stayed behind, leveraging the old model, the typical brick and mortar, and I think they can blend in online with brick and mortar, and they're all in really virtually one, which they're not. I think those are going to be disappearing in the short term. So I think institutions have a handful, and you're right on the money. If they don't adopt those changes and embrace it, Julie and I'm sure you the same thing too. You hear it on other podcasts or on testimonials or conversations with the university, especially on the academic side. Hey, they want to put a wall with the eye and ChatGPT. Why use it? That's bad. No, embrace it. Figure out how to use it, how to maximize it in a way that creates a better experience for the students so he or she can learn, right? Rather than just ignoring it and put your hand in the sand. If you do that, you're going to disappear, right?
Absolutely.
No, this is fascinating. I think we can talk for hours in here, and hopefully in the near future, we'll peel the onions again. We'll go deeper into this subject. I mean, everyone here on this call is passionate about it. Certainly, you leave it in the trenches, Joe. You give us some great insight that I think the audience will appreciate as they watch and listen to this podcast. Any final thoughts, Joe, on what we discussed today that you want to give to the audience in place? Food for thought as we close this event of the podcast?
The time is now to be bold. If you're not bold, you'll probably be getting too old for what these consumers want. So excuse the rhyme, but you got to be bold. You got to do something different. You got to challenge your status quo.
Yeah.
Do something different. Think differently.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, be bold, challenge the status quo, and push the envelope. And I think we're starting to see our amazing changes on it, with computing and the ability to compute so fast on it, that I think the rapid pace at which computing power is moving at light speed on it, we'll see so many changes in the next 5. I can't imagine education in the next 10 years. 5 years from now it's going to be interesting. 10, I think 10 to 15 is going to be mind-blowing. For those that you're, like you said, Joe, those are embracing that are on that trajectory, that are going to make those changes, that are going to adjust, that are going to transform. The other ones are simply going to disappear and stay behind in the dust.
It's a brave new world.
It is. All right, gentlemen, we're approaching the end of it. Joe, I wanted to thank you for the time, obviously sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your experience. We look forward to having you in the near future and one of the other versions of our podcasts in the Chris Tech Chat. Thanks again for sharing your knowledge, your thoughts, your ideas on it, your vision into it. We'll stay in touch and have a wonderful rest of the week. And Julio, as always, my co-anchor here. Thanks for joining us and continue having fun, guys, out there. Be safe.
Thanks, Joe.